Hi, my name's Nicole Zeno, and I am the CEO and founder of Clever Cow Media and the co-host of What the Frack. I have worked in marketing for a long time, and I'm here on the Business Growth Architect Show to reveal to you tips to grow your business without the burnout. And you may feel a little more aligned at the end of this episode. So check it out anywhere you listen to podcasts, and see you there.
And hello, fabulous person. Beate Gillette here. I am the host of the Business Growth Architect Show, and I want to welcome you to today's episode where we discuss how to navigate strategy and spirituality to achieve time and financial freedom. Truly successful people have learned how to master both, a clear intention and a strategy to execute that in a spiritual practice that will help them to stay in alignment and on purpose. Please enjoy the show and listen to what our guest today has to say about this very topic.
Welcome back, Beate Gillette here with Nicole Zeno from the Clever Cow Media in Arizona. And today we're going to talk about something that many of you are struggling with, and that is figuring out which is that one strategy that you should be using and how to avoid burnout with all the 10,000 things that everybody out there is telling you to do simultaneous all at once. Nicole, I'm so excited to have you on the call. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for letting me talk about this topic. It's such an important one.
Exactly. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about who you are and what is it that you do and what problems do you solve for your clients?
Yeah, I have a really interesting backstory. My parents were entrepreneurs. They owned a software web company that I worked at really early on in my life. I was always into the entrepreneurial spirit and decided, like most teens, that I did not want to work with my parents. And so went out on my own and got a degree around video and design and really was drawn to those pieces. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't do math. I'm not great at math. Like, I'm not in those types of places. I was very drawn to design and storytelling and how do you tell a story and the emotional response that you get from that. And so I graduated my degree, went out to LA and started working in the music industry, did music journalism, photography, directed and produced music videos, and then realized that there was a space that needed a challenge in the music industry in connection, right? You know, it was during this time where people stopped buying records and record labels wanted to have people pay for meet and greets, and we were really losing connection in the music industry. And so me and my brother built an app for musicians that they can help them connect with their fans. And I fell in love with building businesses. So since then, I have worked in startup. I've exited multiple startups. I've worked in Fortune 100 marketing and Fortune 100 business ops. I have worked with small businesses. Pretty much the gamut runs. And basically, I step in and help people where they need to be helped. And what I've noticed is there's a big gap in strategy. There's a big gap in operations, so business and marketing operations, and what's happening in small business, startup, and even in some of the larger businesses is that people are running themselves down. They're making themselves burnt out because they're trying to do too much. Like most of us know, there is a million ways to make money. There's a million ways to market your business nowadays, and there's a million activities you could be doing, and people are trying to do them all, even if it doesn't like go back to ROI, even if they don't know how to measure it, and even if they're not being good at any of them. And it's really hurting our business owners and even the directors and people who are running departments in these companies.
Yeah, I mean, that message resonates with me a lot because when I go out and I look at what my colleagues and competitors are doing and just the sheer volume of what you're being told to do, if you follow somebody like Alex Hormozi, who has a team of 7 that pumps out, I don't even know, 50 pieces of content a day that goes on every social media, which is that even practical for somebody who is a normal business owner? And is that a strategy that I should be following? And then I have whatever the Grant Cardones and the Brendon Burchards and whoever else is out there, and they all say the same thing. They all say more is better. So you say more is not better. Tell me why that is.
Yeah, I think that for most of us, there's information overload. Who do we listen to? And a lot of the people out there who are the loudest are the ones who maybe did it once or had a specific industry of company, and they did one thing really well, had success, and now they're telling everyone you have to do it, right? And so there's so much mixed information out there around what is actually necessary. And what happens with especially small businesses, startups, even some of the larger businesses, is that we know that the teams are small, the resources are limited, we don't have an unlimited checkbook. And a lot of these people who are out there saying, I'm amazing and I'm a team of one, actually have a team of 12, right, behind them. And so what's happening is that people are taking this advice, they're trying it out, they're not seeing results, but they think they have to do it. And they just think they're not doing it well enough. I host a show called What the Frack. We just launched it not too long ago to help fractional executives, business owners, people like that think through these processes, all right? Why are we picking these different activities? And one of our main taglines is, you don't need another course. What you're doing, we need to implement correctly. And I think that a lot of that comes back to processes. It comes back to thinking through, what does the future look like? We run through with our clients this exercise of looking at the big picture. What does it look like in 5 years? Is there a business out there that if you could have tomorrow, that's what you're aiming for? And then we say, okay, what's the KPIs that are going to get us there? What are the marketing then what are the campaigns that are going to get us to the KPIs? And what are the marketing activities that are going to get you to the campaigns, to get you to the KPIs, to get you to the big picture? And a lot of times it's not what the people who are running those departments are actually doing. So for instance, if you are, let's say this podcast right now, right? And you think you have to you're spending all of your time editing Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, all these things. And we come in and we look at your strategy and we say, hey, you can get 3 times the amount of traffic if we just focused on Pinterest. And we take out all the time you're spending on these things. Now you have all this time to think about the other pieces, right? So we really are thinking, what's the foundation? What are the activities that are going to get us to the KPIs right now?
I like this a lot. So I have a really good example that I think is very timely. Ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter, now X, it has become, in my opinion, an absolutely unusable tool for anybody wanting to grow their business. It is a tool of grumpy, dissatisfied, mean people that say horrible things to each other, and it's all opinion-based. I look at it and I go, why am I even here? And I have 2 Twitter accounts, or X accounts, whatever that's even standing for. And so there has to be a conscious decision, which we made. So we said, well, we're going to for sure delete one. So we're cutting this down by half because nothing's happening. There's no clicks, no likes, no forwards, no shares, no anything. The other piece is that we need to look at the platforms, to your point. Like Facebook has lost a lot of relevancy. And with the inability to advertise as successful as we used to be able to, it's become very expensive. From your strategic perspective, so you say when you talk to your clients, you take them through this exercise of stripping what's not necessary and explaining to them what they need and what they don't need.
Yeah, and it really comes down to 3 things. Like you just made a really good point. Number 1, who are your buyers? Where are they at? And it's not just who are your buyers, right? I was talking to someone the other day whose buyers are CEOs, CMOs, like executive level people. Well, if you think about it, let's say that executive's looking for a service or for a software. They're not going out there and Googling themselves. They're telling someone in their team who's trusted to go do the research, right? So it's not just who's your buyer, but also who is influential to that buyer, right? So for instance, you're doing marketing for a retirement home. Well, you might not be actually trying to hit the people who are going to be in the retirement home or like assisted living facility. You're going to be hitting their family members, the kids who are putting them in there, right? So you have to think through the buyer persona. Where are they? Where are they getting their information from? And who is trusted in their decision circle? Second piece to this is, what is your goals long term? I would even argue that this might be the most important piece. I think this is also the piece that gets overlooked, right? So a lot of times when I talk to executives, they bring us up in as fractional CMOs. They try to hide a lot of these pieces of their business, but from us, they think marketing doesn't need to know these things. And they think that it's just going to be the same piece over and over again, right? Well, maybe not, right? So if you are looking to exit the company and sell the company in 3 years, my marketing plan is going to be completely different than if you're looking to expand membership or you're looking to become a thought leader, right? These things change. So what the business looks like in 5 years is going to change. And where you are now, are you in maintenance mode? Are you in growth mode? Are you in product validation mode? So often we get startups who are in product validation mode, but they're doing activities for growth.
Oh, they want to scale all the time.
Yeah, they want to scale all the time.
They're at EOS or traction, and they're like scale. Like, what are you scaling? You got nothing to scale. You don't even have a business yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And so my marketing plan and even budget is going to be very different if you're scaling or you're validating your product, right? Like completely different pieces. But third major piece to this equation is going to be budget, right? Do you have the resources, or where do you feel most comfortable spending those resources? If you have a large budget and you understand that, let's say, thought leadership is going to take a long time to build, then, and you're okay spending that money and not seeing a return right away, great, let's do it. But if you have a small budget and you need that money to be returned right away, we shouldn't be writing blog posts and trying to build our thought leadership. We should be using other channels. So just because your people might be on Facebook or you might be on Twitter, it doesn't mean that this is the time to do it. We may have to phase that in later on as your goals change. And that all of that culminates in the data that you need to look at, those KPIs, the data that you're collecting. And a lot of marketers shy away from data because executives don't understand where the data comes from and how it works together. And marketing, unfortunately, the attribution's not there. And so they shy away from data, and marketers need to be leaning into data to make sure that we're hitting every quarter. Okay, this is not working. Let's take this out. This is working. Let's increase this, right? Can I just explain one thing about marketing? I don't know if everyone knows this, but marketing is making an assumption, validating that assumption, and then building the plan, right? And what most companies want is they want someone to come in at a high paid number and say, this is how you're going to make your money. And that's just not how it is. We have the higher paid the marketer means the more experience. So they have to make less assumptions and validate less. And that's the only reason that they're higher paid, but they still need to validate based on data. And that's the same thing with buyer personas. That's the same thing with campaigns, ads, anything that you're doing. You need to make an assumption. Our people are here. They're going to relate to this messaging. Let's now validate it. Let's take 6 months of this messaging. Let's validate it by success. Success looks like this number. And then let's review it and decide if we have to pivot. And that's marketing for you.
That makes a lot of sense. Looking at this from the perspective of people go like, well, I don't need to know how to grow my business. I just need a marketing plan, and I need somebody who's very good at marketing, and then all my problems are going to go away. You and I know, because we've been in this for a while, is that this is the part that comes very far down the road, because we have to have all these other pieces in place. We have to, in order, when we talk strategies, like what is it that we're building? Who is our buyer persona, our avatar? And then is this product a product that this avatar even wants to buy? Where are these avatars? Where are they hanging out? And then how do I reach them? How much money do I want to spend? So there's so many steps that kind of go into that. What would you say to somebody who says, all right, fine, I'm I built it. I know what I'm doing. I'm now in the growth phase and I'm looking at marketing. What's the most successful marketing strategy you've ever used? And I bet that you're probably going to get asked that exact question every day.
I think that, you're 100% right. There's a lot of myths, right? The myth is, I don't need marketing right now. I'm building the business. The myth is the product is so good that it's going to sell itself.
And people just going to want it. Once they find out,
that kills me. It kills me every time. Or the myth, I don't need a marketing team. I have a sales team. Right. And there's lots of these myths. One thing I would say is the most successful marketing plan you're going to have is twofold. One is going to be thinking about marketing holistically in your business, right? Marketing should be touching almost every single department. So let's say you are primarily B2B sales outreach type of company. you should still have a marketing team that is building assets that is supporting the sales team, right? They should have at their fingertips assets that they can send to potential clients and say, hey, we thought of you about this, and build relationships with. Maybe they're not doing social media, maybe they're not doing email marketing, but they're still helping with the messaging of the company. Let's say you are in that phase where you're not growing necessarily users, but you're growing the product. Marketing should be involved in those core values. They should be involved in the messaging. So if you want marketing, if you are in a product validation stage, you want marketing involved in buyer personas, you want marketing involved in your core values, in your messaging. I've had clients who come in with messaging that's really off because they wait until the product's done. Then they wait till they see that people aren't buying or not relating, and then they bring marketing in. Or I see clients, especially startups, who go for investment and don't calculate the correct marketing budget. And so now they're trying to play catch up afterwards with marketing, right? So marketing needs to be holistically a part of your business. You need to have them on your executive team. You need to have them in those planning conversations, or in some way giving them the insight and transparency to do what they do. And at that point, you'll see a plan being made. The second piece to this that's really important is that not all marketers are created equal. And this is really important with small businesses and startups, because what happens is they find a marketer for $30,000 who's just out of school, and they expect them to build the right plan and know everything they need to know to do. There are multiple types of marketers. There's the strategic CMO level marketer. They are the people with the experience. They're the people who know how to read all of the data and the reporting and to say, okay, our assumption was correct or it was wrong. Here's the time to pivot. They're going to build that plan that's successful. You have the executional marketers. They're the ones who are cheaper and are going to execute on the day-to-day, but so often they're asked to build a plan they don't know how to build. And so when you marry the two of those together, that's when you see the magic. And that's where something like a fractional CMO comes in, where small businesses can't afford a CMO level person, or they're paying them a lot of money and expecting them to execute and they can't, right? You have the fractional come in, help build the plan, the executional on the day-to-day at a lower cost, and be cautious of agency. Most oftentimes, agency model, what happens is you should be using them to help you execute on the stuff that's over and above. And a lot of times that's what I see, is that they go to an agency thinking they're going to get strategy. They actually just pay higher price for execution. And if you marry all that together with a great strategy, your marketing plan is going to be amazing.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that there is a lot of education that's necessary for a small, medium-sized businesses to really understand what marketing is. And it's somewhat shocking because we talk about marketing so much and everybody always talks about the marketing plan, the marketing this. And yet at the same time, there seems to be such a fundamental misunderstanding of, how marketing is different from sales, which I still hear all the time, and how to put this marketing plan in place. So let's make a quick pause and we'll be right back after this message.
Have you ever wondered what the actual amount of your true earning potential is in this market? To find out what your talent is worth, take our quiz at whatsyourtalentworth.com. You will find out your actual earning potential amount by using our proprietary profit formula. Enjoy the quiz, and again, the URL is whatsyourtalentworth.com.
So, Nicole, we just spoke a lot about the strategy surrounding finding a good marketing strategy, using data to be very specific about measuring on what impact you're making on what platform to see what works for you, and to do less and to do it better. Do you subscribe to this idea that I've heard a couple of times, master one channel first and then move on to the next?
Yes and no. I would say I wouldn't put a number on one, but what we normally do is put a number on KPIs, right? So we say, okay, realistically, we find that most companies can't do more than 4 to 6 KPIs at a time. They just cannot focus on it. So we generally look at between 3 and 5 KPIs, depending on how big they are. If they're huge KPIs, then we're going to, go down to that 3 number. If they're smaller and we can check them off, then we go up to that 5 or 6 number. And from there, we build marketing activities that are going to hit those KPIs. Now, with that being said, I think that most people, especially small business owners, do not have the patience to master one channel at a time. And they just don't have the budgets to do it or anything like that. So they need to really be thinking through a few things. I like to break it up into 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 of the stuff is things that we can knock off the plate and see improvement right away. 1/3 of the stuff is the long-term game, right? What are we going to be building for 5 years from now? Because marketing is not an overnight thing in a lot of activities. And then the last third is kind of that middle ground. We know it's going to hit our KPIs. We know we have time for it. And a lot of it is just the everyday maintenance marketing, right? The emails that have to go out, the social media that might have to be posted. But all of this is back to those buyer personas, right? So my client who I was talking to you about before, who had $100,000 in the marketing budget, we saw that they were using it for social media when really, when we looked at their buyer personas, 99% of their sales came from their sales team, and not 1 hour was being spent on supporting their sales team, right? How do we take the most amount, your efforts, and make sure we're getting ROI from them? And that's really what I think.
I like this. I like this a lot. So switching gears over to our second big topic on the show, spirituality. How does spirituality play any role in this KPI, hardcore, let's look at the strategy piece that you do? Because sometimes this might even come across as contradictory.
I think spirituality means a lot of things to a lot of different people, right? So it's really about finding, I want to call it core values, right? I want to say that it's finding the people. You built a product, you built a service for specific people, right? Just to solve a challenge. Who cares if these people over here don't like what you built? It's not aligned with them, right? So finding that alignment, finding who your people are, whether that is your team that you're hiring, it's the processes you're building, it's the lifestyle that you're working in, right? Let's say, for instance, there is a marketing agency up in Colorado, and it was founded by two women who were mothers. And everyone who works there and the clients they serve are all mother-owned businesses, because maybe they don't work on Fridays or their schedule is a little bit flexible, right? Because for them, that's their core value. That's what feeds their soul, right? And so they built a business, a successful one, around that. So I think that when we're talking about burnout, which is something we keep talking about, where business owners, entrepreneurs experience burnout is when their product, their processes, their lifestyle does not align with who they are. And if we want to call that spirituality, we can, but it doesn't align with their goal, their futures, what they see for their life. And then they become burnt out because they're constantly doing activities that are bringing them further away from the end goal, from whatever's feeding their soul, right? So for instance, I think here in the States, we pick careers not based on the lifestyle we want. We pick it based on, well, I want to be a doctor, I want to make a certain amount of money. And what I truly think is we have to go back and switch that around. Here's the lifestyle I want at the end of the day. Here's what feeds my soul at the end of the day. Now let's build a career that fits into that, right? So let's say that's living in a small town and being able to have your local shops. It's doing more charity work. It's having a 4-day work week, or making sure your employees are taken care of on a different level than in a corporate job. You can make that happen. And when you're doing that, you feel in alignment, your customers feel in alignment. And the one thing we're seeing in marketing is that alignment and authenticity are going way further than anything else. That if you're out of alignment, customers are not picking your products.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you here is that the way you look at spirituality is really from a resonance and an alignment, as you just said, perspective, to say spirituality doesn't necessarily have to be religion or a particular mindset. It can also be a core belief system that puts out what you really truly believe in. And, as a formerly single mother, I have to say that my core value was I couldn't work after 4:45. I had to be at daycare at 5. that was non-negotiable. So there were no happy hours and no after work outings or lots of client dinners. It was lunches and breakfasts because there was no other way. That's what I had to do. I was a single parent. I had to be there for my daughter at the end of the day. So if we look at spirituality from that perspective, that it is about the clarity that you talked about, and you said that's what you start with your clients, to say, well, what is it that you want? Who are you? What's important to you? And then that has to transpire throughout every area of your business, because then there is this alignment and the resonance. So do you see that the results are different when this is in place, when people are really living in that sweet spot? Because marketing is not always very spiritual, if I can just say it like that, right?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with the question is, like, is there conflict, or how do you reconcile this?
Yeah, I think that, like you just said, right? Your alignment was that you couldn't work after 4, right? What I say to clients a lot of times is, okay, this is what you imagine your business to be, right? When you ask someone, where are you going to be in 5 years? The first thing they come up with is revenue. They come up with the amount of team members maybe they have, or the amount of users. And they start talking in these numbers that are really vague and basically just what they think success is, right? Mm-hmm. I think that, our society, we think of like, okay, I want to be the next Uber. I want to be the next Amazon. And they look at the numbers. We need X amount of users, X amount of revenue. And a lot of times that's where we start. And I say to a client, okay, if I said to you, I can make your company into a $2 million company, but you're going to have to work until 7 p.m. every night. You might be like, okay, I could do that for a few years. Or maybe you start stretching your limits or your alignment, and then you start feeling burnt out, right? Because every time that phone calls, every time you get an email, every time you have a task or a dinner that's after that 4 o'clock time, because that's your alignment point, it's going to feel painful. But if now we're talking about, maybe you are only $1 million company, or you're only a $500,000 company, but you get those alignment points in. So every meeting is a lunch meeting. That same meeting that was a dinner meeting doesn't feel as painful, because now you're committed, you're aligned, and you can work and be more productive towards it. With that being said, think about the products you use on a daily basis. They're the ones that had a story that resonated with you, that aligned with you, that was very clear. And what I see a lot in marketing is that when the messaging is not aligning to customers, it's generally because when we talk to the executives who are building that messaging, they're not aligned, or they're conflicted. And if you think about business as a series of choices, every day we make small decisions. And those small decisions slowly either get us closer to our main big vision, or they get us further away from our main big vision. If you're not checking back in and aligning, it's really easy to look back in 2 years and say, we're not talking to the right people. The product's not in the right place. We went where the money was and not where the alignment was. And that's where you start feeling burnt out.
All right. So what I'm taking away from our conversation is a much more intensive or intensified search to these alignment points. I actually really like this term that you just mentioned, and to say, are my alignment points actually present? We do know that when you are in alignment and there is resonance, energetic resonance, success is more likely, because you are removing all these friction points, how you operate. So for somebody, Nicole, that has now heard about you and wants to find out more, where do we send them? Where can they learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find Clever Cow Media at clevercowmedia.com and on all social media. Check us out at What the Frack. We are a web show on YouTube, as well as you can find us on LinkedIn and whatthefrackshow.com. And you can find me on socials under Nicole Zeno as well. Please reach out. I'm happy to help or answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And that's it for us today. Thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of The Business Growth Architect. And until next time, and goodbye.
So appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for listening to the entire episode. Please subscribe to the podcast. give us a 5-star review, a comment, and share this episode with one more person so that you can help us help more people. Thank you again. Until next time. Goodbye.